in today's Chakra Weekly Forum Dialogue. Today is the last seminar or webinar of our forum. So I would like to say a very goodbye to 2024 and welcome to 2025. And today we are nurturing this dialogue with a title called Walking and Mediating with 2024 and Welcoming 2025 Challenges and Possibility. We have with us respected R.V. Berry from Colorado, USA. We are also joined by Dr. Tamanna Khosla from New Delhi. I extend a very warm welcome to Ananta Bhai, nurturer of this initiative called Swadhyay Chakra. I extend a very warm welcome to Miniti Pradhanji, Dr. Mohanty, Dr. Viswani Mohanty, and all friends co-present here. Let me give you a brief introduction to our Swadhyay Chakra, which is a circle of co-learning and mutual learning. It's the initiative of Viswanathan Center for Asian Blossoming, which is a public intellectual trust. And we nurture a dialogue with a sense of nurturing and cultivating the knowledge of self, culture, and societies and the world. Friends associated with this initiative are eager to walk and mediate with new horizons of thinking and new movements of social cultural change at work in our contemporary world. Uh, and we invite people from across the discipline to share their knowledge and praxis to change this world. Today we are joined by our respected Veri Bahar. She is a deep seeker of knowledge, having very new kind of orientation of learning and dialogue. She is also a peace activist working in South Africa, and she has been a nurturer of peace building initiatives. She has been chairperson of Cape Town Interfaith Initiative, then Global Interfaith Ambassador at Emissaries of Divine Light. So thank you so much, Madam, for accepting our invitation to share your knowledge. Now I request Ananta Bhai to initiate this discussion, and would love to interact with many other friends who are joining. Thank you so much, all of you, for giving your presence, kind presence, I'd say. Now over to you, Ananta Bhai.
Thank you, Ranveer. Thank you, Berry, Tamanna, Minati, and all friends. So, the invitation for us to realize is that as December 31st become January 1, there is also continuity as well as new break. Therefore, as we are in this last Sunday of 2024 and just before 2 days, how do we work and meditate with 2024? Many challenges we face. And one of the profound challenge is the challenge of original injustice. I'm just coming from a musical performance in Kalakshetra, and the whole day I have been in two different musical journey, and the last performance was deeply revealing, and that is about the churning of the ocean. And in the churning of the ocean, the so-called demons and the devas, they take part. But before the churning of the ocean, God Vishnu has already told the devas that you would get the nectar. And as I was watching, now, if the Lord, the kind Lord, had given the nectar to both the devas and the other, and they are both the children of Kasyapa, and then the problem would not have been so difficult. So the challenge therefore is what we witness in 2024, the fundamental challenge of destruction of life, in which in a sense, as the divine has been partial from the beginning in this story. So we see in Palestine, Israel, Ukraine, and Russia. So there is a kind of the original complicity in the forces of destruction. So we are hoping that 2024 would give us some respite, but the challenge continues. And this is just one aspect of the challenge. The other challenge is the problem of rising authoritarianism, and in the way that the coming of the political and economic elite. But in terms of life, what each one of us need, we need a dignified presence in health, in education, and in also creative blossoming. So dignity is our common denominator. And when some people, they think that, they are more than others, as George Orwell says in his Animal Farm, some are more equal than the others. We see this, unfolding right in front of our eyes. So along with the challenges, there are many processes of and also it requires a rethinking of time. Just the change of the calendar, does not change time. So we need a new temporal consciousness. That means how do we combine time and eternity together in our very present? So the past, present, and the future are interrelated. So with that spirit of interrelationship, so how do we embrace a new sense of time and space, and realizing that each one of us have the capacity to co-create a different 2025. So with this, we cordially invite Reverend Berry, who is the global of the research in 20 to 25 minutes. Then Tama will give us her thought together with both of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Geary. Thank you, Randhir. It is so good to be with you all today. I greet you in the name of all that is good and
so
holy.
Please kindly make your presentation.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm so sorry. You broke up a little bit there. So 2024. For me, 2024 has been a time of great learning. I have spent time on 4 different continents, presenting workshops and mostly observing, being with people, being with communities, and almost to the extent that I could call many of them home. It's been an interesting time in the world to sit in community and to observe and be with people who are dealing with some of the conflicts and some of the challenges that Professor Geary has mentioned. And I think that time and eternity are one of the great questions of our times. How do we live with the challenges of our day in a way that serves the eternal, that serves the divine in us, that serves the shrine within? These days seem to be an invitation to return, teshuvah, the act of turning back to God, to the divine. So as we turn back to the divine, we ask ourselves, what is it that has been missing in our lives? And I go always to the idea of spiritual intimacy. And so as a world that is torn apart, that is built on division and separation of ideologies, of activity, that is created by border divisions, that is created on separation, how do we find our unity? How do we return to the allness, the interconnectedness that is in the divine design of our universe and of our cosmos? I've had the opportunity in 2024 to speak with a number of interfaith organizations around the world. To many of them, I have expressed the opinion that we in the interfaith world have lost our direction. We have lost our noble cause. We have forgotten that our noble cause in this world is to unite and not to divide. Unfortunately, what has happened in our religions over millennia, it's become a habit of separation in our religions, and these have been hijacked, if you like, almost colonized by political agenda. And as we look at the damage that has been done, we must ask ourselves, who are we truly putting at the head or on the table of our shrine? Who are we truly turning to for guidance and direction in the world today? And very often I fear it is not the divine, it is man-made agenda and ambition. And so as we turn back to the shrine, the divinity on the altar of our lives, we have to ask ourselves, what are we listening to? What are we seeking? And what are we observing truly? Honestly, I feel that it's such a privileged position to be in a space where we are able to have these conversations. There are so many people in the world who do not have access to this kind of conversation that can help to generate more unity, more commonality of purpose, and more coming together in terms of our values. I think of all the people who are so caught up in the drama of the world that they are unable even to identify with the idea of peace, with the idea of joy. It is foreign to them. It is not accessible to them. And I've learned that spiritual development and the experience of these higher ideals is in fact such a deep privilege. I sit with that every day and I ask myself, how do we take that forward into the world in order to help people to hold that balance? For those of us who are able to hold peace and to identify these higher ideals and to hold them in our lives and to experience them in a time when there are so many who cannot, it becomes an enormous responsibility to hold those ideals and to not let go of them and to not allow ourselves to be guilt-tripped into releasing our joy and our peace because there are others who cannot have that right now. Guilt and shame are part of the legacy, if you like, of many of our religions, but not of the religions themselves. These are not the teachings of our original founding teachers. These are not the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, of Muhammad, peace be upon him, of the Buddha. These are the teachings and the corruptions of human thinking in a way that enables humans to control people. And so how do we return to spiritual intimacy? And these are the issues that I have been meditating on and that have been coming to me in 2024, the issues of loneliness. There is a report that was recently published in Australia that showed that 87% of young people between the ages of 15 and 24 are lonely. 87%. That's a horrible statistic. So loneliness is a scourge. And what is causing loneliness? I would suggest that it could be the lack of spiritual intimacy in the world today. We live in a world in which we are bringing people, we have access to so much information about each other's religions, and instead of using that to learn and to grow from, we are using it for conflict. But if we are able to bring back to our hearts the true values and the beauty of all of these traditions, and we are able to learn and use this knowledge to enrich ourselves and each other, we would be able to experience this ideal of teshuvah, turning back to the divine, and to be able to experience the beauty of each other and therefore unity. And so this privilege that we have of being able to touch these higher ideals in our lives gives us the opportunity, as we move into 2025, to meditate on the idea of holding balance. So if we imagine the world on a scale, on a set of scales right now, and we imagine that the heaviness, the sadness, the war, the conflict, the bloodshed, the separation is heavy in the world right now. But those of us who are able to hold peace and blessings and joy, we can, by holding that, help to restore the balance in some way or other. So how do we exercise our privilege of holding that balance, being responsible for ourselves in the world today, for bringing more light, more positivity, more joy, and more kindness into the world on behalf of those who cannot right now, so that we hold a beacon of hope. For me, that is what a beacon of hope looks like, is the ability to spread this kind of light, to share this kind of unity and positivity, a vision for a new future. So how do we, my meditation as I move into 2025 is the idea of holding balance, the idea of restoring dignity to our religions, to our faith. Restoring dignity means to me to remove it from the areas of conflict, so that politicians and politics can no longer use it for their nefarious purposes. So what is on our shrines? What do we truly value? The trend of bringing together in the world today, the trend of moving away from organized religion and moving more into a space where we have responsibility for our own spiritual path, because we have access to so many teachers, to so many marvelous teachers in the world today, and to the teachings of each other's faiths. I think this is really important. And for many years, there's been this move away from structured religion. We call this interconnectedness new, but really it's not new. Really, it's been around forever and ever. If we go right back to the teachings of interconnectedness of the Hindu faith, for instance, I mean, into the and to even before that, to the indigenous and original faiths that spoke about the interconnectedness of all of life. If I think about Africa and the philosophy of Ubuntu, I am because you are. I'm not only because you are, I exist because of and through the environment around me, the plants, the trees, the flowers, the mountains, the oceans, the rivers. These are my brothers and sisters. And this kind of philosophy is echoed across the world on different continents and in different indigenous peoples. And so this idea of interconnectedness and the ability to draw from the wisdom of so many of the elements around us is not new. And yet here we are thinking that we are creating something new. What is new is the reluctance to label it. we do not like to label ourselves any longer. And so I pray that you would just let me know if I have run out of time, because I don't want to take up too much time. Are we good?
No,
You have another, I think, 7 minutes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we're doing very, very well then. Okay, thank you. So through all of history, also we have the idea of the wanderers, those who simply are on the planet but have no sense of, have more of a cosmic worldview. That's actually been an interesting point for me over the past year as well, is the learnings about the worldview. So studying the work of people like Ken Wilber and Don Beck, who have produced the theories of integral theory, which is another way of speaking about interrelatedness, and the idea that everything that happens in the world is part of the matrix. Is so even though I might not like much, and I think of this on a personal level as well, I might not like a lot of what has happened in my history or in the past. I might not like a lot of what has happened in my country's history. I certainly don't. And yet, all of these things that have happened have helped to build a structure which has created where we are today, what I am today, and what you are today. And so we are invited to honor the processes of the past, and our processes of forgiveness must surely honor where those experiences have brought us to. For instance, if I think about personal personal examples of this, is that there have been times in my life where I have felt deeply betrayed, deeply unsettled, and in fact, my life has been torn apart by the actions of other people. It's hard to forgive such betrayal. And yet, I am where I am and who I am today because of what happened in that time. And so on these kind of realizations comes the experience of forgiveness and the art of forgiveness. And in the world today, I think that that is a big theme that we have to be looking at, is how do we forgive people who have made unconscionable decisions, really evil decisions that have affected so many people across the world, that have destroyed lives. How do we look to this time of chaos and understand that out of the chaos arises blessings and gifts and lessons that are so valuable to us as human beings in our human experience? So that's one of the things that I look at. This idea also of being displaced. Now, over millennia, people have moved around the world, but there is a sense of great displacement right now. People have always moved in order to try to find a better life. And yet, in doing so, have we destroyed any possibility of a sense of belonging? And here's where I think we need to help our world to move into more of a cosmic understanding of life, a cosmic perspective. So I think about the development of being egocentric, moving into a more ethnocentric worldview or perspective. But even there, in an ethnocentric perspective, we're looking at the world, and so many of us are stuck in that perspective, looking at the world and saying, it's my country, right or wrong, my family, right or wrong, and not being able to discern the wisdom or lack of it in the leadership that we have placed in power. Loyalty and patriotism have a place, but that cannot be all that there is. And as we move and grow further and understand that we really are part of a much bigger picture, we're part of this great three-dimensional puzzle. And as we move one piece into place, it often seems that another piece falls out of place. But as part of this puzzle, what is our responsibility to the other parts of the puzzle? And so as we expand our vision and we realize, oh, we are all part of one interconnected world system. The rivers are connected to the mountains, to the trees, they are connected and reflected by the veins in my own body. And so how do we come from an ethnocentric worldview into a more world-centric view where we recognize ourselves as being part of all of life and invite our leadership to express decisions that honor our position in all of life. So and then of course, obviously in the cosmos, because as we move out into space as well, we have an impact on so much more than our world. So as we move into 2025 and we think about holding the balance, our worldview, our worldview needs to expand into more of a cosmic responsibility as we hold space for what is happening in the entirety of creation, as we experience ourselves as co-creators with the divine, as we feel the love for all of creation that must guide our decisions. And we must hold that space on behalf of those who cannot right now, whose experience is so full of fear. And fear is one of the greatest pandemics of our time. We are so bound up in fear. And to release that fear must be one of the great tasks of our time, because we are heading into a future of unknown, whether we like it or not. The future is not going to wait for us to change our minds about whether we are going to accept change or not. We will have to accept change, whether we like it or not. We will have to go forward whether we are afraid or not. We will have to go forward either in love or in hate. And if we go forward in hate, we risk full destruction of everything that we know and love. If we go forward in love and inclusivity and in compassion for all of life, we have at least the chance of being able to find a way to navigate a new way of being in the world together and of helping each other and helping the divine to co-create something that is akin to heaven on earth. There is this vision, and I feel that if we have this vision, if we have the capability of thinking about such things, then we know that all of that it must be possible, because everything that exists in the world today started as a thought in our minds. And if that thought can be held as a beautiful and positive vision, then it must be for a reason. We must ask ourselves, where did that thought come from? And if the thought came from the divine, then it is a gift, and we must accept it and embrace it as we move forward. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to share my heart.
Thank you so much with our heart for these deep fears. And for example, this geo-ethnocentrism and how ethnocentrism is related to what another great spiritual seeker calls the challenge of geo-sentiment. And I was thinking how in place of a closed geo-sentiment which is rising, how do we cultivate body, place, and wisdom with all each other. So thank you for your gift of presence and insights. So now, Tamanna, please, Dr. Tamanna Khosla, who is a many-sided social scientist and a very devoted seeker. So Tamanna, please.
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and it's an extremely interesting topic which we are dealing with. And I mean, the last caller speaker was also wonderfully. She expressed herself, and that got me thinking about what 2024 was like and what 2025 should be like, and the future thereon. So 2024, what an year it was actually. A rather tumultuous one defined by wars and a lot to worry about. West Asia has been gripped in turmoil. A year after the 7 October attacks, Israel fought wars on multiple fronts, eliminating top Hezbollah and Hamas leaders. As tensions with Israel is escalated, there was looming fear of wider conflict. And now Syria is staring at uncertainty after rebels ousted Bashar al-Assad. The Russian-Ukraine conflict has dragged on and will enter its fourth year in February 2025. In November, amid the escalation of war, there was increasing speculation of World War III. Thankfully, it remained at that. Then, so I guess war is one thing, which affects majorly women and children. And men, for example, the ones who are like not wanting to enter any of these wars, for example, in Ukraine, young people are being forced to enter into um, same with Russia, for example, they're being forced to enter into war, and women are raped, children are killed, and that's what 2024 was all about. And I mean, wars at two, three fronts together. One was on the West Asian side, the other the East Euro-Asia's area. Then the China area is also ripe with this particular issue. So and so that, yeah, that is the whole thing. Then and in the present world, there were at least more than 70 countries which this year have gone on elections. So it shows that people have faith in democracy. And we have to see that, even if there is no democracy existing in a certain country, it should be the people should have the right to get in the democratic structure of their country right. For example, Afghanistan, when Taliban came to power, nobody recognized it, but people had to recognize them because they were because they were in power. So most of the major powers, then subsequently to avoid any further problems, they started off with this particular issue. And so, for example, in China, I mean, 1989 Tiananmen Square, everybody knows about it. And so, young people were wanting democracy, so which was not being granted, and it's not even now being granted to people of the country. And so I guess we have to see that um, how we combine democracy with spiritualism. Now, my personal work, which I intend to work on with a couple of scholars, I guess we need a lot of people if we want a world which is better. So, we need to, like for example, liberalism. It's a way of life. Similarly, Islam is way of life, Hinduism is way of life, Christianity is way of life. So what we need to do is to bring about these different ideologies together, for example, Marxism, deconstruction, and liberalism, and many of these such ideologies together, so that we can come up with ideologies which are it's not necessary that one particular religion might be able to cover everything. It is for sure that they miss onto something. So what we need to do is to bring about structural changes in the body of work which we study, and that can come by when we look at different religions. And for a world which is a better world, we need to study hard. The scholars need to study hard, and nobody should be orthodox. Orthodoxy is something which is extremely problematic, and it can cause loss of lots and lots of problems. Lots and lots of issues can be raised because of that. So uh, you know for example, now if we look at China, China is a Confucius country, but now CPC dominates it. So CPC, for example, launched a discipline education campaign to ensure strict party self-governance. So uh, yeah, so many of these now, for example, if we look at the whole issue of democracy, democracy is something which is like would not be available in many countries. For example, Africa, uh, and another issue which I like to say is about terrorism. Terrorism is extremely difficult topic to handle, and anybody can be a terrorist. So you for example, if a state uh, st- starts a war, it can be called a terrorist state. So it's just not a couple of people who are like terrorists. It can be a state itself which can be a terrorist state. So for example, now as far as Russia is concerned, North Korea is sending its soldiers to this country. And so I mean, China is as well. So I guess we need to understand that these um, issues are best tackled by looking at areas of concern, of violence, of women related violence and children related violence. Then another area of concern for 2025 would be environment. Now, I mean, if you look at current scenario, um, it is something which is like war happening. I mean, nuclear. We were just fearing that we'll have a nuclear war, and it's still looming large on our heads. So how do you kind of discuss this particular issue? So I guess we need to understand that weapons etc. create lots and lots of pollution, and they and we need to have better structural models to deal with wars, so that wars don't happen and weapons are least concerned. The problem is that there is a huge amount of corruption. The weapon market, for example, Ukraine is sending it's selling its weapons which it has got from US to African countries to garner more money. So I mean, what do you do about that? So many of these things are there. And so I mean, so in fact now another area of concern would be that most of the countries in Europe as well as US, India, we have rightist governments. So these governments are, like having a rightist vision, which is more conservative. So I guess, I mean, they're more religious based, and so what we need to do is that we have to have the right kind of structure, so that not a single country is without a proper democratic structure. So, for example, Pakistan, and now Bangladesh. I mean, India is surrounded by many of these countries, which are now becoming Islamophobic. So, I guess, I mean, the same can be said for India, for example, many people would say. But the problem is that because India is a democracy, India has a huge opposition party set up. So, no ruling party would ever dare to embrace any of these issues. So what we need to do is that we need to have South Asia, which is a democratic country, democratic setup. So be it Bangladesh right now, Pakistan, Bhutan. Bhutan is a small state, but still, whatever. And Nepal, for example, now the Marxist government there. So China, I mean, all of us need to sit together, have our ideologies together. For example, like we need to discuss our own cultures. Culture is something which is important, but also equally important is what uh, texts are there which involve these things. So, for example, like I mean, similar to China, India too has wide civilizational history. So what we need to do is we have to study each of our concerns, and see that we do not degrade any country, and stop interfering in any other country's relations. And so be it any country, what we need is a stable system, so that what our concern is not countries, something state sovereignty, etc. What we need is people's protection. Be it Africa. Africa is seeing a lot of violence. So what we need to do is um, to have a system whereby people are protected. If people are not protected, we will face lots and lots of problems. So we are all our brothers and sisters. Be in Europe, be in East Europe, Central Asia, West Asia, Africa, or Asia Pacific. We all need to understand that we are all brothers and sisters, and we have our own spiritual concerns which we look at. And so we need to have discuss our spiritualities, and also see that how to embrace spiritualism, how to embrace texts which have been written in our for example, in India, Upanishads, for example, there are amazing work which have been done in those contexts. So I guess that is the whole thing. And what we need to do is that uh, for China has its own scholars, so we need to understand uh, each other scholars and come up with solutions to world's problems. And countries which are big and which are influential are the ones who have to start the whole game once again and get the ball running in the right direction in 2025. So I guess as far as meditation is concerned, well, the whole world needs to embrace it. And what else we need to do is to have best possible system whereby people are able to have the right knowledge, spiritual knowledge coming from different structures and religions. So I think I like to stop now. Anand sir is on the line, so I'll just stop now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tamanna, so much. And bringing, for example, the need for structural conditions of lack of war, peace, and democracy and spirituality, and inter-civilizational dialogue among scholars and people at present. The idea of people security is also deeply significant, which touches upon the very important aspects of security, human security, including food security. But that food security, human security is also related to what Reverend Berry was telling about loneliness, that how relationality and respect, a spiritual relationality is very much the key. Thank you, Tamanna. And now we join together in discussions, please. So friends present, kindly join in. So we have the gift of presence of Dr. Basanti Mohanty, who is a creative writer with Odisha. So Basanti Opa, please, some thoughts. Please unmute.
I am listening all the discussion. I'm very much impressed by all of the speeches. I have nothing to say. I feel very good after listening this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Gyan Luigi.
Yes, excuse me. I was following with the smartphone because I have some problem with the computer. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Because
Yes.
today it's a black day. I cannot really. I do not know what is happening with the computer. Anyway, I could resort to this other instrument. No, it was really very interesting. Both intervention. I thank you very much because they open new perspectives for me. As far as regard myself, well, I am perhaps a little bit, how can I say, not pessimistic, but so to speak, every year I do not expect very much from the new year because I see that the mistakes repeat themselves. That is, I see that every time, the end of every year, there are always these mistakes in at least in the international politics. And I unfortunately have always to see that they are again and again and again and again repeating themselves. Therefore, I must admit I am not expecting very much, but I think that anyway what I am expecting is not so important. The important is to have hope. And without hope, I am much, much convinced we cannot do anything. That is, over the last days, I meditated a little bit again on hope and on the principle of hope for my, of course, behavior, for my action, for my suggestions, and for my ideas about the world. And I think that expectation is something, but hope is something else, and hope is that which is I think the most important attitude in order to at least have the perspective of change something. I thank you very much. It was really very interesting. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sorry for this connection, but I cannot have in this moment another better method. Thank you.
Thank you, Gyan. Reverend Berry, Gyan is a deep philosopher from Italy, now based in Vienna, and his work is very inspiring. He works also on Plato and the Indian spiritual traditions on the Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads. So, Susri Appa, please.
Hello.
Yes, Appa.
Yes, you are.
Bye. Yes. Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Ranveer ji. And the connectivity, I'm outside, so the connectivity is slightly poor. That's why, in case it gets disconnected, I'll call back again. Just a word of. So yeah, it was very nice listening to both the speakers, Dr. Berry and Dr. Tamanna. And yes, absolutely agree with. Absolutely agree with Dr. Tamanna on the fact that the world has been going through 2024 has been, the year that has been pushing us to the brink. There have been geopolitical issues, the climate change. Everything is actually on the rise. There are problems and challenges. Of course, hope, faith on spirituality, on humanity is the way forward. And it is the times like this that this faith and hope gets further reinforced. So beyond that, I mean, no questions. Of course, everything is so well spoken by both the speakers. So thanking both of them. Can you call Papa? Continuously call.
Thank you, Appa.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and would just wish everybody, a better and brighter year ahead, more and more creative flow, and the inspiration to write and do for the world around. Thank you, Ranveer ji. Thank you, Ananta Bhai. Thank you, Basanti Appa. My greetings to everyone.
Thank you. Now, Minati, please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you
Yes.
are audible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, it was very insightful to listening to Reverend R.B. Berry and Dr. Tamanna Khosla as well. I mean, I was, while listening to these things, I was just thinking there are two different aspects both the speakers have presented. I mean, if you look at the challenges from grassroots to universe, probably these two words does not match, but that is what I want to mean. Like, there are so many challenges like overconsumption, overpopulation, overpollution, biodiversity loss, deforestation, habitual destruction, then halos and extinction. The list is like, I should not say endless. I mean, what are the main thing, the concern area is these ones. So, that R.B. Berry, she was telling about loneliness. Yes, loneliness can be converted into solitude, but how? What are the practical ways? She was telling love and hate. That is, both, yes, it can be used. Two are very important weapons. Hate, I should not say weapon. I mean, like, love can be used as a So I want to ask both the speakers, like Tamanna Khosla was telling about the orthodoxy. Yes, it is there, but when you approach the people who are having that orthodox mentality, what they say, we are saving our culture, our tradition, and so on. How to practically show them the light, what is real orthodoxy and what is the real culture. That is one thing. And in these challenges, I said, how can we, practically deal with that? So I want to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Minati. As always, you are alert and attentive and helping us to bring some important questions. So now, dear Randhir.
Thank you, Anantabhai, and I would definitely say goodbye, but we need to think about we just think about what goodbye means. What are the problems that we are suffering? As Gandhi says, the problem of desire, and the whole quest of making society non-violent begins from this initiative of saying goodbye to the idea of desire. And I think we should think this as a matter of vocation of saving this earth, in that sense. What does it mean? It means like, what we have witnessed is emerging discourse of international relation. And we are forgetting the whole discourse of peace building process at the one hand. And, with the advent of this politics, the whole politicization of everyday life, where our thinking is, very much suffering from the disease of determinism and binary. And until unless we free ourselves from this approach or orientation of binary, we cannot have alternative possibility, or we cannot have another world is possible. So we need to cultivate this whole initiative of debate, discussion, and dialogue for nurturing the mind of people at large. We are missing the agencies where we can have the whole initiative of citizenship building. And I have been a part of International Sociological Conference, All India National Conference, and where we have discussed all these challenges, the impossibility of the possible world of peace, justice, and equality. The whole quest of withering away from the idea of state, withering away from the idea of caste, withering away from the idea of conservative family. There are so many questions which we had earlier. We need to revisit our whole understanding of self, culture, and society. And at least we should have a kind of discussion and debate. And we have to limit our self. We have to think possibility of degrowth in society. We have to think possibility of limit of the technology. The whole isolated life we are all celebrating in the name of social media, in the name of say technology. The whole automation. Until unless we have to at least say there is a limit of something. So how this orientation can we emerge? The problem or the challenge of human values, which we have witnessed. The whole question of family disorganization, the whole question of disruptions of personal and the private life or public life. So what are the possibility? So with this new year, I think may we have the birth of new consciousness where we can think about the possibility that are the possibility of non-violent society. Thank you.
Thank you, Randhir. So now, Reverend Berry, please some thoughts, and then Tamanna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Ananta. So, you know, I've been thinking about that one quote from the Honorable Gandhi, who said that friendly study of all the religions is the sacred duty of every citizen. And there's so many clues in there for us. Firstly, the word friendly. And so when we come to something as a friend, we come with an open heart, we come with open hands, and we come with curiosity and with compassion, a desire to understand, not a desire to find fault. And so that's really important. And then to really learn about each other so that we can understand and have more constructive interaction with each other. I also want to tell you that in terms of the question of practicality in the world, which the honorable participant was asking about, I've seen this happen where in different places in the world where the faiths have got together to work together in harmony, but where dialogue breaks down because of the very, very divergent beliefs and the problems that Professor Tamanna was talking about, the wars in the world that are making it so that there are so many people who just cannot even be in the same room at the moment. And yet what many of the interfaith organizations have done that I've been in connection with, they have started to work on projects. So they've decided that talking is not a good thing anymore because they simply fight, they disagree. And so they've started to look at social justice projects such as homelessness, such as poverty and hunger, skills, building skills, those kind of things where everybody can benefit, they can all participate, but they don't really talk to each other anymore. But one of the things that they've also done is that they've started to engage on a partnership basis with the secular world. And so the secular world and the faith world must come together to work on specific social justice, particularly social justice projects together. And that seems to help the political agenda to at least be minimized, if not disappear completely. It cannot disappear completely because obviously much of the secular world is involved with politics and power and commercialism and all of those things. So there's always going to be that agenda. However, when some of the resources can be channeled into a more constructive and positive way, that is very, very helpful. And I have seen where the faith communities can come together with secular organizations for the benefit of the people. And that seems to be a very, very helpful thing. But I also think that education has to be really, really looked at in terms of how we teach people about the world, how we teach about history, and how we teach about each other. We teach in our worlds, in our schools, we often teach separatism. Maybe we need to go back to Confucius, because Confucius really believed in making people stick in their own lane. He said, you know, you are in a particular position and you need to honor that position, and that is your role in world. He spoke about it as filial piety in terms of honoring your parents, but not only honoring your parents, honoring all authority and places. And he didn't think that people had to stay there forever, because in the natural flow of things, we change, we grow into positions and when we are ready for. But he also did not believe in a God, but he did believe in the Tao, in the flow of life, in the natural flow of life. And so it can be argued that that is representative of divine design and of the divine. So maybe we need to go back to these old teachings and start bringing them more into our into our schools, and maybe we actually need to go into grassroots communities and start to help people to become interfaith ambassadors, to understand each other better and to build compassion. One of the things that really builds compassion in the world is travel, exposure to different communities and different ways of life. That builds understanding and compassion. But when people do not travel and do not have that exposure, they tend to become very insular. So I think that so maybe encouraging people who have resources to open up the possibilities of youth exchange programs, for instance, could be very helpful in educating the world, in educating us to each other. Thank you. That's my response.
Yeah, that's really, education and, open up to each other's idea is very, very crucial, very important. I mean, that the educational institutions should, implement. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I just Miss Mati had asked me something about orthodoxy. So I personally feel that, I mean, orthodoxy can be tackled by the whole concept of deliberative democracy as given by Iris Marion Young. So according to her, for example, we, we have to have dialogue between people. And secondly, what we need is that, for example, there can be we have to understand that people cannot necessarily agree on every situation, so it doesn't mean that, I mean if I'm a anti-nuke person, I also, and I'm a male, so I have women also along with me. So men and women not always, different from each other. They might align in many other issues, and they might not align on any other issues. So somebody might be an environmental, but would be, for example, anti-animals. So many of things are there which she said in her work. So yeah, and secondly, I would like to say is that. What we need to assess is that, we have to think further in 2025. We have started reaching Mars, etc. We have to try and find out ways in different galaxies. I mean, there should be places where we have to analyze, different different galaxies and, different planets, so that, our country, our nations, our continents can prosper. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Tamanna, just a linking note, how important, 30 years ago in 1994, during this time, in the highlands of Mexico, there emerged an unexpected uprising called the Zapatistas. I'm sure Reverend Berry and many friends know about it. And one of their project was intergalactic dialogue. And so therefore, this whole idea of the cosmic that Reverend Berry talks about, and therefore the cosmic and the everyday. And Sri Aurobindo talks about vastitude. So how do we experience an experience of vastitude, not only in our mind, but also in our feet? And as Reverend Berry is inviting us to travel, how important travel, and then the kind of practicalities. One important challenge today, and that relates to the structural condition of the world, is the kind of the free thinking that was possible throughout history. And that free thinking, the wandering spirit, And if you look at the growth of civilization and what the great historian philosopher Karl Jaspers talked about the rise of the axial age civilization. Now, both before the axial age, like the rise of the Hebrew religion and up to Christianity, there were many wanderers. And that wandering spirit, the Buddha was wandering, Prophet Muhammad, peace be unto him, he was walking, and Lord Jesus Christ, 30 years, he was traveling. And so therefore that wandering sense of wandering, how it can be supported. And because structurally we see the real estate. Now, I was reading a report in America. Now, almost 100,000, 1,000 people who are homeless. I have been a student of the homeless process in America. So, New York City, 100 years ago, the kind of the bohemian space, the artist and the free thinker, Paris, in that space, our mother, Mira Richards, grew. And so structurally, in terms of space, there is very little space for people who do not have money to travel and to stay. Of course, it is supported by the kind of the loving spirit. For example, during my travel to South Africa, Reverend Berry, put me in communication with so loving spirit that this journey was possible. So therefore, we would have to think about, many practical ways of what Tamanna was telling about, that expanding our mind. How do we do that? So with this, it has been an enriching evening. So we move forward. So Minati, you can kindly share your thoughts. Before that, I have a request. After our meeting, Minati, Randhir, and Tamanna and Gyan Luigi, you can kindly continue for a few minutes. We will discuss a bit about our Vishwanidam for the next year. So now, Minati, please.
Thank you, Anantavai. I Minati Pradhan, on behalf of Swadhyaya Sahachakra and Vishwanidam Center for Asian Blossoming, would like to thank our today's chief speaker, Reverend Berry and Dr. Tamanna Khosla, for both of them for presenting us a very, very insightful subject. Thank you so much. I also would like to thank Dr. Basanti Mahanti, Dr. Sushri Sangita Misra, and Dr. Gyan Luigi, and the friends who are present in your Facebook platform. So I thank all of you. Please pardon me if I have forgotten anybody's name, but I thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you. So thank you, Reverend Berry. We look forward to receiving you on 6th of January. So now, dear friends, to continue a bit about our Vishwanidam, Randhir, Gyan Luigi, Minati, and Tamanna. So we can spend another 10 minutes. Is it okay?
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
So now, speaking about the wandering spirit, so we have been kind of made, MAD. We have been made for each other, and we have been doing this orchestra now for 4 years. And so let us think about, how we feel and the way we can take it forward in 2025. So our Vishwanidam, our weekly dialogue, and the challenges we are facing. One challenge is that our participants, sometimes they are not many, but still, our dialogue has a very deep significance for those of us who are present. It is a learning journey, and we are creating an archive of knowledge. So some of us, at least 5-10 of us, we can commit ourselves to this learning process. and we can be co-present, and now we can actively participate, in suggesting speakers. Now for the next, January and February, we have 8 Sundays. I invite all of you to kindly suggest speakers, topics, and so now Randhir, please.
Yes, this initiative I think is very enriching. And interesting thing is when I was participating this International Sociological Conference, All India Sociological Conference, I think I met more than hundreds of people. They are observing our initiatives of debating, discussing, and many of scholars, they watch our YouTube video as well. So I think we are, although I was not very satisfied the way we are moving, but again, that experiences was quite appreciating for me at all also. And definitely we are developing a kind of intellectual archive. And many of our participants, they talk about very different issues like Arjun Appadurai lectures, Professor Shruti Tambe, she had watched these videos and she wrote a long mail to me about all these discussions and initiatives. So these days, making archive is something very, very interesting, and I have been personally involved in many initiatives, many forums. But I think from this year onwards, I will be focusing on Vishwanathan dialogues because many other initiatives had some limitations, some kind of political involvement and some kind of, So I will be definitely focusing on this Vishwanathan dialogue. And we need to have some, collaborations. I was talking to some of the RC members, and I involved in political sociology. So I have requested Bhop Singh Gaur to have a kind of collaboration with us, and at least in a month we can have two Sunday dialogue with collaborations with RC of urban sociology and RC of political movements. And I'm also involved in social movements. And definitely we'll have some kind of better further collaborations. And we can, since from next year, we will be having 50 years of All India Sociological Conference. So at least in a month, at least we should invite, we can organize at least, and that would be great initiative for all of us to learn. There are many eminent sociologists who are whose work are not very, mainstream. And if we can invite many scholars, they have many streams. Like we don't talk about Indology, we don't talk about structural functionalist thinkers. So we can have at least 50 important sociological series, and we can at the end of the year, at least we can have 50 contributions as well of different sociologists. So Vishwanathan, with collaboration with Indian Sociological Society, have a kind of publication of this thing also, and it will be long lasting at least for 100 years. And we can do this. We have all initiative, and we can have funding for this collaborations as well. Because I was personally talking with Professor Shweta Prasad. She told me that we do not have limitation of funds. We have around 7-8 crores FD in this institution. So we don't think like we will have. But at least we should, engage ourselves for this kind of effort. And definitely we'll have our Sunday dialogue, as Anant Bhai said, and Miniti ji, Tamanna ji, Professor Gyan, you can also suggest some names as well, right? And we'll definitely not have more than 4 events in a month. And definitely, I was quite fascinated by the encouragement, particularly sociological fraternity towards us. And they are also very quite, because there are many institutions in India, and they are not doing because of, institution has some ego problem, some kind of bureaucracy constraint, some other kind of constraint. But we have here, we have freedom of seekers. They can, there are many seekers whom I met. They also talked about that we have published this book. You can have one collaboration like Professor B.N. Shukla, they have also suggested something. So definitely we can have, and we should also give a space of new scholars as well. There are many new thinkers who are coming with very new idea, and if we can invite that forum, and also we can convert these talks into a kind of podcast, so that these days, people are very eager to watch podcast than the videos. So we can invest uh, some amount to our technology concern, so that it will be little vibrant and more public. So these are my, submissions. Over to you, Ananta.
Thank you, Randeep. You are inspiring. Your turban is a beacon of hope. So lovely. So now some thoughts from you, Minati, please. What are the challenges we are facing, Minati?
I don't know. I don't sound like always a complaining box. So my things are there. When we are conducting some meeting or some seminars, so it is not that only you or Randir or I mean, in me also, I try to be. Some more audience should be present. What I have noticed, the people whom we are inviting, we are recording, that is fine. We are not just inviting them only for recording, only for recording. So there should be some live audience who will interact, ask questions or share their views. That will be a little bit, encouraging for the people, and it will be also respectful. That is what is my personal opinion and what I have observed. I mean, in between, it just went very all Malaysia things, Malaysia, Indonesia things and all. Only, I mean, they were very disappointed. I somehow I just managed. So that should not happen. So as Anantbhai said, people should be committed to, just to join some days at least, not. So that is one concern. And second thing is, we have to make sure the people who are consenting us to be as a speaker, they should make it on time, or they should not remain absent unless until it is very urgent, like somebody, these two things actually I have more concerns. And whatever Randir suggested, it is a very good initiative. It sounds very good, but let's see how it goes. So these two things are my suggestions. And we have to stick to time, whatever time we have initiated, and up to what time that you have to stick to the time. So these are the And one more thing, I mean, now we are better at that. I mean, 1 or 2 days advance, if it is circulated, it is a little more crowd can be expected. I mean, people who are, even though they join occasionally, they can also put in some their opinion, some insightful, so that it will help us to also learn. Like some, I found out want to join, but sometimes it becomes too late. Some find it is Sunday. It is very, I mean, they think it's a holiday. I said, no, we have only decided only for Sunday. So like that, these are the things. So you can just think and decide. So you please continue with them. If anything else comes to my mind, I will share again. Over to you, Ananta.
No. In fact, we have to think of a better language, not complaining box, but singing song. So thank you, Minati.
No,
And Tamanna,
no, Anantavai, sometimes, like, no, everything cannot be sugar coated. As I know, I am a person who cannot wear a mask. That is also another issue. I just means say whatever the way I am. If I'm happy, I'm telling. If I feel something, I say. So that is the.
yes. So yeah, we would bring our energies together to move ahead. So Tamanna, please.
Yes, I guess all of them, Minoti and Randhir, I guess, I mean, I completely agree to what they said. And what we really need is that, like different topics from different subjects, be it from science, from social scientists speaking science. That would be so interesting, I mean, speaking about galaxies, and how do, current cosmopolitan world can deal with it. And, how, so we can think innovatively, how the world would be where we would be in different galaxies. And, and what should we do, what our countries should do, like, the ones who are technologically way superior to us, and they are working on these things. So, like, I guess this challenges upon our generation to see that, how to have a better place to live. And, like, I mean, I personally, I'm very interested in sci-fi and all that. So that is the whole thing. And obviously new scholars coming in, and that's a major issue, obviously. And, like, so that we should have regular seminars as well, I guess, not webinars, over the phones and laptops, but seminars as such, and, a comprehensive seminar. So yeah, that's a thank you.
Thank you, Tamanna. You are also on the path of becoming an intellectual guru. Very nice. So, Gyan Luigi, please. Hello, Gyan. Some thoughts from you? Okay, Gyan is taking some time. So, therefore, let us one thing think about, and that we would have at least once a month meeting, at least 5 of us who are present, and Amana, myself, Gyan, Randir, and Minathi, and we kind of create a a council of what topics, and we think in advance, and we prepare ourselves. Like Tamanna, you please suggest a scientist whom we can invite, So you
Sure.
and Randhir, this proposal of having at least one sociologist to speak once a month. So a creative thinker whom we can invite. So you please give us this suggestion. And another thing, at least once a week, or once a month, or if not possible once a month, once in 2 months, we must also have our mother language engagement. That is what is being written in Hindi, in Odia, in Bangla, you know. So that is also, let us, at least Minati and Randir, you can think about, important writers in Odia and Hindi. So we must also have a space for that, you know. And along with that, along with our regular seminars, we are co-creating some books, editing some books with some friends like myself, David Willis, and Marcus Bussi. We are now co-editing a book on education, for example. We are preparing so let us have a webinar series. So some of the thematic concerns, we had a concern about a theme like Gandhi, Sri Aurobindo and Ambedkar. So we can think of revisiting these themes and build up scholarship over the next 6 months. Think of identify scholars who can present, and then it can move into a book. So the thing is that there is so much work to be done, and we are each one of us, and we are also so busy, so challenged with so many things. But to keep our hope alive, to dream alive, to keep our commitment alive, and if we give at least, let us say, 15 minutes a day, every day, 10 minutes a day, just think about Biswanidam, how we can enrich it. Another technical challenge is, Randir, that we need to have somebody who can really update our website, and that we have to find a way. And then of course another worldly thing is that we are purchasing our Zoom link every month. And so far, Ramdir has been doing that for the last 3-4 years, and he has spent already 40,000+. And we are finding some way to provide that support to Randir. But as we do that, also if every month, Randir, if there is some support to purchase the link, otherwise, so these are some thoughts that are in my mind.
We'll definitely go ahead, and we will definitely organize some kind of summer schools and winter schools. I think yes, last year we have decided, but unfortunately we did not have time. But this year we'll definitely at least organize a summer school with collaboration with I have talked to the Chancellor of Munjal University. We had a long discussion about all these our initiative and efforts. So we can, they are also eager to be a knowledge center, and if we can provide some initial support in terms of just intellectual support, and I think, hope they will provide some support to us. And like when we organize some when we publish kind of book, as Ananta Bhai always, so at least we can give a kind of a space of for we can request for publisher to also to give some a space of Vishwanidhan initiatives. They don't take much space, and Anantava, you and I, if we organize, if we can write, and if they can discuss about some kind of half page, or then we'll have a kind of wider awareness about readers and among scholars or researchers or scientists, social scientists, so they can know the efforts of. And these days, we can future we can also plan, because I have part of two academic journal of university. So these efforts further can be nurtured. There are speakers who delivered good uh, presentation, and if we can motivate them, they can also write a paper. And if we can edit them, they can also do that. So that intellectual work, if we can have some provided some economical support, then we'll certainly develop this forum as a institution. So definitely we can think ahead, and that would be great initiative if we can have a monthly meeting of discussion, and then we can further nurture many important idea and initiative as well.
Now, on a practical note, one thing. Now, do we think that Sunday is people are busy or moving to Saturday? Is it better?
I think Sunday is a holiday, and Sunday is always more comfortable for us. But I think any other day will have some kind of contingency. Our speakers also, speakers, because they use social media, so they have time for Sunday. So I think.
Sure. And then, so one or two things quickly is that, Randhi, if we can find a volunteer to help us with the website to update it. Secondly, we need a friend who can just upload all our talks in our Viswanidam website itself. And then with the AI support, if we also present transcript of that, and it would be a very important contribution to archiving our discussion, and many people can go. Because and the third thing is your proposal of the podcast is very important. Let us take it seriously. Yes.
It's a good idea, and we'll move ahead because all the videos I have requested one of my students, they have put on the YouTube. So anytime we can get the transcription of that with the support of AI. And regarding this podcast, let me find what are the minimum budget, and I will let you know.
And then, for our January, I am in touch with Paul Bhai from Canada, who is also personally coming to Chennai on 16th of January. And,
By
he
the
has
way, what is the date of your seminar? I think it is on 6th, right?
yes, and I am sorry that even you do not know the exact date of the seminar. So then how can I move? Yeah. You are my
I
soul.
have
Yeah. But is it possible for you to come personally, Ramdeep? Do some magic?
I I have let me think. Let me think because I am in
You and Minati and Tamanna, you write your exam in Chennai, you can come.
a okay.
So for 5th of January, Paul Bhai can speak on Rumi. This is one proposal. And I request you to make suggestions for the other one. In the meantime, Minati, the book in Odia has come out, is her story book. And we can hold a joint dialogue with Srujani and Viswanidam on maybe 12th of January or the week after. So these two things we can think. And Tamanna also, we didn't have a total discussion on the challenge of the deep state. So we can visit that issue. And then your proposal to have a speaker from sociological. So already we can think of January along these 4 lines. Is it okay?
Yes.
And so for February, I invite you to kindly think about themes and scholars, and then let us write to each other and discuss it, please. So then we can say a provisional good night.
Good night. Good night to all.
So before that, Minati, you please read a poem. You have a
Now,
poem.
1 minute, I'll just get the book. Poem. Who is in a mood to listen to the poem now? This one.
You, you
That
know
I-
who you
this
know who is the bad person among us. You never know who is the person.
okay, one just recently published something. I just will read. It will resonate only with who is a mother. That one may hear, one famous. You will not find. One minute, just I'm not finding that. Okay. The title of the poem is Love. The glistening bright walls looked ugly. The glistening bright walls looked ugly. Numbers, alphabet, drawings, and scribblings smiled fully. I muttered the words in anger. My heart melted with her innocent answer. I tried to love you less. It was only a failure. The moment I entered our home, tripped on the scattered dome, it made me mad with frustration. But your smile was my mood's elevation. I tried to love you less. I could not, as you are my only fascination. Your animated face at the dining table, I don't like this, was a staple. My preaching on goodness was always available. You thought maybe I was reliable. I tried to love you less again at that time, but I know for educating it, the mother was responsible. Finish your story and sleep early. Finish your story and sleep early. Every night while I checked on you fully, I covered the blanket and stared at your face so lovely. When will you grow? Did I want it really? Because I tried to love you less, but I could not. Another one attempt. I felt so silly. Thank you.
Thank you. So it is a invitation for each one of us. And with that note, a beautiful good night. We'll meet soon.